Welcome back to another episode of the Three Terrible Gamers podcast. This is episode 134 here with Colin.
Hey guys.
All right, we have two left over from last week. Go ahead and get started. The PS Portal gets beta dates for cloud game streaming.
Sony is rolling out a new update for PlayStation Portal users who are using its cloud streaming beta. Some users experience the general functionality updates are getting added to remote play systems cloud capabilities. Sorting is a notable addition as updates will allow players to sort games in cloud streaming beta catalog. Categories include name, release date, and which titles were most recently added to the PlayStation Plus. Capturing gameplay will also be possible during the cloud streaming session. The usual create menu options apply whether you're pulling up the menu, snapping a screenshot, or recording a video clip. In the Sony blog, the update and Sony said, Sony said the video clips up to 1920 by 1080 resolution and up to 3 minutes in duration are supported. And I believe it rolled out on the 13th or 14th, so it's already happened.
Out.
That's why I didn't give you a date, but yeah, because obviously it was a topic for last week that we didn't get to.
Yeah, but if you didn't know about it, you guys do now. So they're just trying to make the portal less useless now. I mean, they're doing it with updates instead of doing it right out of the box from when it first launched, but I guess it's better late than never, but it's still kind of pointless to me. But you don't
But you would
need,
still need a PS Plus to play the Portal if you didn't have a PS5 already.
yeah. So either way, it's behind the paywall basically. So just whichever one. I mean, obviously, if you don't have a
Cheaper paywall,
PS5,
though.
yeah, if you don't have a PS5, PS Plus is cheaper, but you don't have access to all the games you would have on your PS5. So, go ahead and move on then. Power World Communications Director says developer is unlikely to be acquired. Our CEO would never allow it.
Yeah, which we was on the thoughts of this process too last summer whenever it happened, so this article pretty much explains the rest of it. Last summer, Power Word developer Pocketpair signed a deal with Sony Music Entertainment to produce merchandise, music, and other products around Power Word. But the deal was a simple business agreement to expand the Power Word universe outside of games. A number of fans mistook that as a sign that acquisition was on the horizon, especially after rumors earlier in the year Pocketpair was in talks with Microsoft for that very reason. All that acquisition talk wasn't true at the time. Pocketpair CEO Nakuro Mizobe later confirmed, but sure to get the conversation started. Since then, a number of fans have speculated on potential Pocketpair acquisition, especially in the wake of Microsoft seemingly acquiring half of the AA industry in a few years, and allegedly courting Japanese developers and Sony making several acquisitions of its own in response. So will Pocketpair ever get acquired? Ultimately, it's up to Mizobe. But when asked by communications director and publishing manager John Buckley at Game Developer Conference meeting, he found the whole prospect of Pocketpair's acquisition to be very, very unlikely. Our CEO would never allow it, he said. He'd never allow it. He'd never allow it. They said it, 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
I just wasn't going to make it seem like I was just repeating myself. He's like doing his own thing, and he likes being his own boss. He doesn't like people telling him what to do. So, yeah, good for Pocketpair.
Yeah, good for them. And the success of Power World has allowed them to make enough money. So, and I mean, players keep coming back to it because they keep having, updates and stuff. So, yes, eventually they will need to make another big game to keep the money rolling. But for now, Power World's doing it. And they do have other games, but not nearly as big as Power World, obviously. But
Yeah. I mean, I said I know we was in talks of which I know we cover pretty much anything that could be a rumor, a potential rumor,
Yeah.
and everything else. So I knew that we had covered it, and I was like, oh, okay. Like so, no threat of them actually getting acquired. It's just literally just a licensing deal with music and merchandise.
Yeah. Well, so Microsoft was interested in acquiring them, and then obviously with the lawsuit of Nintendo, that was always a possibility that they would get acquired, and then Power World would be a Nintendo game for there for them. I mean, that would be weird seeing Power World have Nintendo logo next to it, but considering what you can do in that game, but
Yeah, it would be weird, especially since people deemed it, Pokemon with guns, even though that was never their intentions of the actual name coming out to be.
right, they said they didn't even like that name. It's just what it is, basically.
Yeah,
So yeah, good for them, standing strong on their own.
I agree.
All right, we can move on. So, was it last week we talked about with tariffs and everything, or maybe the week before, pre-order dates got pushed back, and we didn't know when they would go up again. So now we got confirmation from Nintendo when those pre-orders will begin
Switch 2 pre-orders are set for April 24th of 2025. So, at time of record, well, not time of recording, but the time of release of this episode, you got 2 days. I mean, you can start pre-ordering if you have obviously Nintendo Switch Online.
in the U.S. and
In
Canada
the US.
because everywhere else has already got pre-orders.
Yeah, don't know why it necessarily affected Canada as far as like an
I
import fee,
do.
but
It's
oh,
because they didn't want, say, people with a passport in the U.S. to go up there and pre-order it on the 9th, and then
okay, okay, that makes sense. I didn't go in that far with it.
yeah. So
Uh, For Switch 2 will be on April 24th, 2025 at launch. Of the price of Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will remain as announced on April 2nd. So it'll be the 450 for the console and 500 for the Mario Kart bundle with it.
right,
Pricing for both physical and digital versions of Mario Kart World is $80. So like we said last week that it was just a rumor that it was $10 thing. So obviously people was thinking that $10 expansion deal thing, if you didn't have expansion pass for Nintendo Switch Online, was added into the price of the physical games. It's not. So it'll just be $80 games. And people can whine about $80 games, but I'll just say that Sony or Microsoft never chimed in saying, oh, yeah, we would never charge $80 for a game. So it looks like it's probably going to be a standard from here on out
right, and
for some titles.
I mean, I'm assuming we'll probably get to it, but later we will announce Sony's not all in the clear.
Exactly. Uh,
But nobody talks
but
about
price,
it. They just,
yeah.
target
Well, like I said,
Nintendo.
if Nintendo was doing what Nintendo was doing, like they usually do, somebody would have said something about it as far as like Sony, their biggest rival goes
Hmm.
throughout, the history of their companies.
And if Mario Kart World was $60 and say they charge $20 for DLC to get everything, nobody would say anything. It's just that it's $80 out of the gate. Yes, there's no DLC with it, but they're saying that it's worth the game and DLC in one because it's such a big game.
Well, they'll probably do what they did with Mario Kart 8 and, last for 10 years.
Right, exactly. You're getting a decade game.
I mean, granted, I'm not saying there's still not people playing it from 10 years ago, but, because there are people that like, just play Mario Kart. But, like, for me, I'm just like, okay, 10 years is kind of extensive for a game, but we're going on what 12 years now since GTA 5 released, so
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
not that uncommon to get big spaces in between games.
Right. So, yeah, the Switch will remain the same. Like Colin said, 450. The bundle will be 500. The games will stay the same. $80 for Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza 70, and then the only thing that's going up is accessories due to market conditions. So I have the prices for that. The manufacturer's suggested retail price to MSRP RP as of April 18th, 2025. Nintendo Switch 2, like I said, same. The only Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller goes from $80 to $85. Joy-Con 2 pair, so just new set of Joy-Cons for the Switch 2 went from $90 to 95. Charging grip went up from I believe 35 to 40. The strap went up $1 from $13 to $14. The Joy-Con wheel set went up $5 to $25. Switch 2 camera went up from $50 to $55. Switch 2 dock set went up $10 to $120 instead of $110. The Nintendo Switch 2 carrying case and screen protector went from $35 to $40. Nintendo Switch 2 all-in-one carrying case went from $80 to $85. And then the Switch 2 AC adapter, just an extra cord and box, went from $30 to $35. So it's not a huge increase. Most of the stuff is anywhere between $1 to $10, but most stuff's just $5 more. That's always
Yeah,
subject to change, but to me, that's not a big deal. Most of this stuff nobody needs anyway because you can get carrying cases cheaper on Amazon and they're just as good. Joy-Con wheel set, you don't need to pay $25 for that. You can get them for like $13 on Amazon if you want to have a wheel
yeah,
for your Mario Kart.
yeah,
Um, Charging grip, you don't really need it. Just put your Joy-Cons on the Switch and it'll charge. Like they last a long time.
yeah.
Um, Joy-Con 2s, yeah, you can buy them for 95 bucks, but Switch Pro controller from the Switch 1 and Joy-Cons from the Switch 1 all work on the Switch 2. So if you just need extra controllers, just use the ones from your previous Switch.
Yeah. And I believe that the Samsung micro SD card went up $5 to
Yeah.
for the 256 gigabyte add-on to it is now $60 from 55, I believe, which of course you can get the specific micro SD card. You don't have to have the Samsung one.
Right. Yeah, you can get SanDisk, whatever, from Amazon for cheaper. Just because this Samsung one has a picture of Mario or Link or something on it doesn't make it better. It's just Nintendo marking up the price for their SD cards. Get them from Amazon from cheaper. But remember, for the Switch 2, it does have to be a micro SD Express. You cannot use a regular micro SD. I think that's it from that. We can move on. Zelda Switch 2 editions will not support cloud saves.
Did the other ones have cloud saves? Because I don't think they did they? Not that I was aware of, but apparently it makes a difference for the Switch too.
I'll get back to you on that. I have my Switch next to me. Go ahead and start reading.
Alright. Zelda Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom for Nintendo Switch 2 won't support cloud saves. The upgrade versions of both Zelda titles will feature faster load times, higher resolution, and new features. Other Switch 2 edition games do support cloud saves though.
Just not Zelda.
Just not Zelda. But Zelda's in Attack on Defense are Nintendo's biggest games like worldwide.
I know at least Tears of the Kingdom did support cloud saves. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's where they wouldn't carry it over then.
Well, they like Pokemon games, they don't support cloud saves. So, but I know Pokemon, so you can't, it makes it easier so you can't like trade Pokemon crap unofficially or whatever. But it might have something to do with where with the Switch 2 versions you get a second save file or something. I don't know. It's something weird Nintendo would do. But say you have basically two different profiles playing under one, maybe is the reason.
Maybe. Oh, it's
To me, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I
no.
know, yes, it would suck if you lost your save, if your Switch just completely died or something, but
I was always taught to press start and save whenever you do something or accomplish something anyways.
right. So to me, it's not that big of a deal.
I
But
mean, I guess we do have like an old school mentality though, because we actually like not too old school to where games wouldn't save and they just completely reset. But we started at a time where save files were pretty common, and
yeah,
we would just say when we got past something, which obviously kids starting out nowadays wouldn't necessarily have to worry about that because of the cloud settings.
yeah, and auto save and stuff like. We grew up in a time if you didn't save, you forgot to save, and say your Game Boy went dead or the power went out, you just lost everything, your hours worth of progress. So you
Yeah,
learn
but if you
very
did save it,
quickly to save after
yeah,
literally every level if you can,
yeah.
depending on the
So I guess
game.
that don't technically this news don't affect us, but if you're a new gamer out there, this is just our word to you to save anytime you can
Yeah.
or remember.
So like I know the Zelda games they have auto saves, yes, but you can hard save too, manually save. So just do that after you fight a moblin or something. I don't know, whatever you're doing. Get a light root, get a shrine, whatever. After every shrine, just save. Yes, it sucks going into the menu for 2 seconds and saving, but it's worth it.
Especially if you're doing the whole Switch 2 thing and not just on the normal system or the
Yeah,
original system.
right. I don't know. There's not really a good explanation to why, but I don't know. And I see people also talking about complaining about these games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom will both cost $70 for the Switch too. But Tears of the Kingdom already costs $70, but Breath of the
Hmm.
Wild it only costs $70 because you have to pay that $10 fee or whatever for the upgrade to the Switch 2 edition,
Unless you have
where
an
it's
expansion
built
pack.
in. Right. So if you have the game from the Switch 1, you don't have to pay $70. People are complaining that you have to pay for the game again. You do not. If you have the game already, you just have to pay that $10 unless you have Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack, then you get it free. There's a lot of misinformation going on. We did address some of it last week, but there's just a lot going on that people are getting confused about, and that's Nintendo's fault. I get that, but
Yeah. They
that's
have a tendency of fumbling the second version of consoles.
yeah. I mean, I think the reason they're not addressing like the prices and crap is because they don't know because of what's going on with the tariffs and stuff in other countries. They can't.
They got their stuff figured out in the rest of the world, just not over here.
Right? Yeah. And that's where people were confused about the $90 for physical because that is the case in Europe, but not here.
Mhm.
So I'm not planning on buying the Switch 2 version of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom because I already have them. And we have the expansion pack, so we basically get a free upgrade to 120 frames per second Zelda. So
Yeah. If you guys got friends and family, just and they have Switches, get the family playing. It's a whole lot better that way.
yeah, you can split it up or take turns buying it, whatever you want to do. It's worth it.
I feel like we're the only people defending Nintendo in all this.
Huh?
So I feel like we're the only ones defending Nintendo in all of this for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people very mad at Nintendo, but I understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, Nintendo is basically just doing what the other companies have done for years.
Yeah.
I mean, just drive up prices for literally no reason. And they say, oh, Nintendo's losing our identity. They're not the family friendly console anymore. Yes, they are. They're just, I mean, how the world is, the economy around the world, not just here, stuff's got to go up. That's just how it is. And 450 for a console in 2025 is not bad, as powerful as that system is, because look at other handheld PCs like the Ally, it's 650 to $800 depending on which one you get. Steam Deck, yeah, you can get it like $300 or $400, but it's not as powerful as the Switch 2, and you can't play Nintendo games on it legally. And even if you do it with emulation, it's not going to be at 120 frames per second.
Yeah.
So just take will from that. But I think Nintendo's doing okay and the right thing for what the world is right now.
Yeah,
But
especially when PlayStation and Xbox, they're basically pro versions of their consoles are the same price as that, and that's about the same operating system.
yeah, I mean, Sony charges $700 for their PS5 Pro for what? I mean, come on. But nobody says anything about that. That's okay.
Yeah, because
If
they had a normal $500 console,
yeah, but Nintendo's not allowed to have a 450 console.
and
Anyway,
this was 5 years ago. $500 console.
right? Yeah, before inflation and everything really took place. So we'll move on then. But just continue with the Sony. Sony announces PS5 price increases again for the second time this generation.
Yeah, announced April 13th, Sony confirmed in a blog post that made a tough decision to raise recommended retail price (RRP) for the PlayStation 5 console in selected markets in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, pointing to the backdrop of challenging economic environment, including high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates as reasons why. Specifically, scroll here. The digital edition of the PS5 is getting more expensive in Europe and UK and Australia and New Zealand, while the standard version of the built-in disc drive will see a price increase in Australia and New Zealand as well. Select markets in the EMEA not listed above may also receive RRP increases, which the EMEA is Africa.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, no, I almost read the next topic by accident, but yeah, that's all I have on that one because
Okay.
it obviously is another Sony topic. I was like, oh crap, I better stop.
Yeah, so I have the prices on these just like I did for the Nintendo increases. In Europe, PS5 Digital Edition will increase $50. The PS5 Standard with disc drive, no price change in Europe. PS5 disc drive, just the disc drive, is a $40 decrease, actually, not increase, decrease from 120 to €80. I think I said dollars earlier, but it's euros because it's Europe. In the UK, PS5 Digital Edition will be £40. I think it's pounds in the
That's
UK.
pounds over.
Yeah, increase from 390 to 430. PS5 Standard with disc drive, also no price change in the UK. PS5 disc drive is a £30 decrease from 100 to 70. Australia is a 70 Australian dollar increase. The disc drive is a 30 Australian dollar increase, and the disc drive is a 35 Australian decrease. New Zealand, the digital edition, New Zealand dollar, $60 increase for that digital edition. Like I said, the PS5 standard with disc drive is $50 increase, and then the disc drive in New Zealand is a $30 decrease. So the disc drives are decreasing, while the digital edition and standard in New Zealand both are going up, and then just the digital edition's going up in the other countries. So far the U.S. hasn't got either one of these price hikes, but other countries have got these basically double dipped on the price hike.
Yeah,
But
I bet it really hurt Sony's heart to do that.
yeah,
Like they make it seem like on their little quote.
which I see nobody talking about this. All the fires on Nintendo, and I think that's just because it's the U.S. not getting the price increases. So I think everybody that's complaining about Nintendo is from the U.S. Like nobody
I guarantee.
from the UK or Europe or anywhere is complaining. They're just paying it. They've already got the pre-orders in. Just people from the US are complaining.
I don't think it's I don't think it's necessarily the console price. I think it's the game price. But again, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, if the other two wasn't planning on increasing the games to that price, they would already said something, made fun of them for it,
Mhm.
or anything else like everybody else because they plan on doing that. If Nintendo is successful with it, guess what they're going to do? They're going to increase it. So
Right.
it's a double-edged sword in a sense because if people do buy it, then everything's going to go up to 80. But if everyone boycotts Nintendo, then prices would probably still stay the same for a little bit, then still increase anyways.
Right. And I know people don't realize this, but these companies do talk to each other. So Sony and Microsoft already knew that they were going to be, I would assume they would already know that they were going to charge $80 for this Mario Kart World. And because they do talk to each other, they know, they try to keep their prices. That's why Microsoft and Sony like all their prices are around the same because they see what the other one's going to charge and then they charge around the same. So they do communicate. And like I said, if Sony and Microsoft wasn't planning on doing the same thing for their new games, they would have said something.
Yeah. It's usually who can push out the better product for the same price.
Yeah.
Because, their specs are slightly different,
Right. Yeah.
which Japan can usually ease away with a little bit cheaper price points because, Microsoft and Xbox is an American based company where stuff is more expensive over here.
Right.
So they can typically squeeze out, better products with less money.
Yep. Exactly. We'll move on. Probably have time for one more. Sony handheld details reportedly leak.
Yeah, this is one I almost went on talking about a second ago. Uh, Rumors indicate that Sony is developing a new handheld console to rival Nintendo Switch and the Steam Deck, potentially named PS6 Portable. Don't know what that's kind of a stupid name, so that would be the third one in the portable thing, but I'll go. I digress. The handheld rumored to be released in 2028 would be capable of running PS5 games natively, but with some performance compromises. It is expected to use a 15-watt SoC and with a free NM process, potentially leveraging AMD RDNA GPU architecture and Zen's and Zen 6 CPUs.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, at least it's just a rumor. We don't know. But I do know for a fact that after the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, Sony had on their website a poll or basically a survey asking their customer base or gamers in general what they thought about the Switch 2. Thought about the price, thought about the specs, thought about the price of the games, everything.
I was gonna say it just wasn't their consumers because I got the poll.
Yeah. So just gamers in general. So I mean, yeah, that's weird, but that just shows you that yeah, they're thinking about making a handheld again. But will they mess it up? Probably. But I do know that it probably will not be a handheld PC because they will not be running Windows on their handheld because, Windows is owned by Microsoft. So they'll have their own operating system, which the Switch does too. But they gave up on their last handheld, the Vita, or their last native handheld, I guess, because the Portal don't count as a native handheld. They gave up on it very early. So I've seen a lot of people say they won't buy this handheld because they just discontinued the Vita so quick because they considered it a failure from without even giving it a chance to sell.
Yeah, because it was only out for what 4 years at
Yeah.
most before they took it off shelves.
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, yeah, it wasn't going to sell as much as Nintendo's 3DS, but I mean, the PSP was very successful even against the DS. So if Sony would have left it up and kept supporting it and putting games on it and updates, eventually it would have sold because the PSP stayed alive forever.
I
But
think they was making a console at a loss. Is why they discontinued it.
probably, which oh, that happens a lot, making consoles at a loss. But I mean, Sony, you got a lot of money. You can work through it.
Because I mean, I think in high school I knew maybe 3 or 4 people that actually had a Vita.
Yeah, almost everybody that I knew didn't get the Vita. They got the 3DS.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's just because there wasn't that many first party games on the Vita because they just stopped supporting it. So, like the PSP had so many good games from Sony and even third party companies.
they even had straight up exclusive PSP games because a couple God of Wars were just PSP exclusives.
Right. Yeah. And like Daxter from Jack and
Hmm.
Daxter, that was a PSP exclusive. It's such a good game. It's the first game I got for the PSP. It was so good. And they haven't done anything with Daxter since, just Daxter. They need to make a sequel to that, but it's just Sony makes some questionable decisions sometimes. And I also heard that this will be their PlayStation 6. They're not going to make two different ones, like the PS6 portable and then the regular PS6. Like this is it. Like they're taking the Nintendo route and going hybrid.
Yeah. Hybrid console, probably.
Yeah.
Hence the name, since I was making fun of the name earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then Microsoft also working on a handheld. Nintendo just started this in 2017. People made fun of it and then it became so popular, everybody's wanting to do it now.
Yeah.
Even third
Well, I
party
guess they could
like,
have done it in
Asus
2012.
and Lenovo, they're all wanting to get into it. Valve with the Steam Deck, everybody's wanting to get into it because it's so successful for Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, they technically tried in 2012, but it wasn't that good of a console to actually do both yet. It laid the groundwork for the Switch for sure at the Wii
Oh,
U.
definitely, yeah. You just couldn't go like
But it was like
20
30 feet
feet
away,
away.
wasn't it?
Yeah, 20 or
Yeah.
30 feet away from the console. But yeah, they tried to make it. The Wii U is what, I mean, the Switch is what the Wii U tried to be.
Yeah, but since the Switch, they wound up fixing the Switch from what the Wii U could and couldn't do,
Right.
then that's when the whole industry was like, "Oh crap, we got a hybrid. It could be handheld or on TV."
And honestly, like, it's such a good idea. I'm surprised it wasn't thought of before. I mean, I know the
Not that
technology
much
wasn't
before.
there
Yeah.
like it was, but like in 2012, the technology was there, just not
Oh
as
yeah.
good as in 2017, obviously, but it would have worked.
Yeah. Because I can't really say even phones didn't technically have that down pat yet because cloud sharing wasn't a thing at the
Yeah.
time either in 2012.
Yeah. And to be fair, USB C wasn't made yet. So,
Yeah. It was pretty much everything was micro
yeah, which
USB,
sucks.
or you had, Apple was their game changer with the lightning cable at that point,
Yeah.
but it was still just a USB-A at the other end.
Right. And yeah, micro USB would have worked, but USB C is just a game changer for everything.
Hmm.
But that's all the time we have, guys. We appreciate you for listening. Follow all of our podcast socials, our Twitch, YouTube, Discord, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that junk. Buy our merch on Redbubble and TeePublic. Colin, do you have anything?
Yeah, just keep on remember, try to listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify when you can.
Yeah, that'll help us out a lot so we can make better quality episodes for you guys. But other than that, we'll catch you next week.
There, guys.